Da, da, da.
Welcome back, listeners, to the Fans of the Band Inside the Westlake Marching Band podcast. This is Tanya, and yikes, I've been a little under the weather this week, which means we are recording right now this intro outside. So you might hear a few outside sounds. Listen for those cicadas.
And I am Erin Huslig, and I'm also here outside listening to the beautiful sounds of nature in contrast to the beautiful sounds of the trumpet practicing in the background of the actual podcast.
It wasn't that bad.
It was loud.
Right. So listeners, you might hear that during our interview today.
But that's okay. I want to give a quick update before we talk about our guest. The percussion contest that Mr. Armini was telling us about, Westlake took second.
That's really awesome.
I went out and watched them, and they were quite good.
Well, I wouldn't think otherwise. I would expect them to be pretty awesome just based on our conversations with Mr. Armini and then hearing them. So that's really excellent.
So today we are moving on to Glenn Fugett, the BOA judge that Carrie Taylor contacted for us.
I thought that was so interesting that Mr. Fugett was the person that Carrie Taylor contacted for us because he's somebody that Kevin worked with in Eanes so many moons ago. And so that was kind of neat, the connection there that he had to Westlake and to Eanes already.
I was surprised by the connections into Eanes before he ever got to Eanes.
Oh, that's right. So, listener, it's a really kind of neat story about how he came to be in Eanes and Westlake kind of at the beginning of his career and then all the things he's gone to do since then. So we hope you enjoy this episode.
We are very excited to be back in the band office today with the Bands of America judge, who I have been told is one of the best in the U.S., Glenn Fugett.
Thank you for having me.
We're so excited to speak with you this afternoon, and we're going to start with some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Where did you go to high school?
I went to Wintersville High School in Wintersville, Ohio.
Did you march when you were in high school?
Yes, I did.
Where'd you go to college?
The University of Akron.
Okay, and did you march there?
I did not march in the marching band there. I was marching drum corps at the time.
Okay. Where was your favorite teaching job?
I taught in 4 different places, and 5 if you include high school that I taught percussion at in college.
So your favorite?
They were all different.
He's not going to pick
favorites.
one.
No.
All right.
And it's a rapid fire fail.
I know.
But I was at
Okay.
Westlake the longest. I was at
Okay.
Westlake for 16 years.
Got it. What instrument did you play or do you play?
Percussion and piano, but my major was percussion.
Do you have your own set of triangle beaters?
I used to, but not anymore. Oh,
Why
yeah,
not?
because I'm not playing with a symphony anymore.
Got it. How long have you been a BOA judge?
Since 1995, so 30 years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Where was the first competition that you judged?
The first competition that I judged was actually for DCI in 1992, and it was in Ohio. It was a drum corps Midwest contest. There were like 6 or 7 corps, and it was 1992.
I was a senior in high school in 92. Fantastic.
It was Cavaliers and Star of Indiana.
When did you teach at Westlake?
From 91 to 2007.
And were you here with Mr. Taylor, with Carrie Taylor?
Yes. When I got here, it was his 3rd year.
Got it. Okay, that's the end of our rapid fire questions. And
Maybe we should just call them fire questions.
I know, right? They're not necessarily rapid anymore. So, all right. Do you want to continue?
Sure. So you started in teaching. How did you transfer and transition into judging?
My first job was in Corpus Christi, Cal Allen Middle School. I also did the drum line at the high school and did the jazz band at the high school. And I was in Carrie Taylor's father's community band.
Oh, really?
Yes. And
I like all these
I
connections.
modeled my middle school program, even the warm-ups that we would do, the fundamental program after his band and after his middle school system. Carrie's father, Bryce Taylor, is a legend in the band world. And anyway, I was always over there watching their rehearsals. If we were having a work day, I was over there watching. And his father recruited me to come up here, connected me with Carrie.
Okay.
But in that transition summer of 91, when my wife and I were moving up here, I did my field trial year for DCI, which is the practice judging year. And then the head of percussion judges, training and assigning and all of that was my high school percussion teacher, Scott Coder, who's a legend in drum corps. He got me into judging in 92, and I've been doing that ever since, 33 years.
Speaking about judging, you have a lot of experience, obviously, with percussion. Are there specialties amongst the judges? Like, do you mainly focus on percussion, like battery and front ensemble, or what do you do exactly when you judge?
Well, I judge all three areas.
Okay.
Started as a percussion judge.
Okay.
And everyone has pretty much a specialty. Like some people are percussion, brass, color guard. Some are WGI judges that specialize in ensemble visual, or some people, more experienced judges, will do ensemble music. And people that are into the designing aspect of marching bands or color guards or drum corps typically judge effect. I started as percussion, and then when we went to ensemble music in 94 from what we used to do, which was ensemble percussion and ensemble brass, and they put them together. I was one of the people who was a percussionist, but also a band director.
Right. Okay.
So that I could do that. And then when I became an administrator in 2003 for DCI, at that point, we were not permitted to judge our instrument. I was the percussion. I was the percussion caption head. So I did a lot more music ensemble, and then I started doing a lot of effect. And eventually that became my thing. One period, 2008, 2009, 2010, I judged effect in finals all 3 years, back to back.
Can you explain effect, what that is exactly?
Sure, that's the caption where you're basically like an audience member.
Okay.
An educated audience member. So you just let the show hit you and react first, then ask yourself questions about, why am I reacting? Why am I sitting on the edge of my seat? What's causing this reaction? And then, so you ask that question. The answer to the question ends up being what you say on the recording.
Okay.
So, and there are 3 types of effect. There's intellectual, that's like, what's going to happen next, where you're sitting up on the edge of your seat and, very, very engaged and a lot of thinking about what's happening. Emotional, which is, it makes you cry, makes you laugh, makes you shocked, surprised. And then aesthetic, which is like where you're kind of in awe of the grandeur of what the spectacle is. So 3 types of effect. And then the sheet has 2 different sides. One is the repertoire, what has been written to create that effect. And then the other side is performance. But it's not like performance like execution. It can be in a couple of regards, but in general, it's what the performers do to bring that effect, to get the audience to react.
Like kind of their body movement and kind of...
Or just their expression, their projection of the intent. And they're taking on roles.
Okay.
And like their buy-in to the concept.
Okay.
So that's basically what effect is. And in DCI, we have 1 effect caption. So it's overall effect.
When you say caption, what exactly do you mean?
That's like what area you're judging. Like there's a field percussion.
So when you say there's 1 effect caption, that means there's 1 judge for the effect?
There's actually 3 in DCI. There's 2 judges in DCI.
Okay.
One that primarily has a visual background and one that has a music background. They're both judging the same sheet, which is overall effect. They're like looking at it like a movie. But this person, the music person, might have more insight into why the music is causing the reaction.
I feel like that's exactly what happens when Kevin and I go watch a performance, because he does have more of a musical background and kind of hear things or, really think about things in a slightly different way than I do. But we're both,
right,
enjoying it, or, have different things that we see.
But the visual person talks about music in a fluid manner. When I'm judging effect, I'm talking about the visual. Like, it's all one thing to me. It's like I'm watching a movie. And it's the music and the visual should have a synergy.
Yes, I agree there. He's saying all the things I want to hear.
I know, we're moving right into the special move.
I know, I can't wait. Should we just ask him about it now?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. So there's a move that seems to be very popular, that seems to come out of DCI, and then a lot of bands have adopted it. Have you heard about this at all? Okay. I call it the special move, even though I don't feel like it's special.
I was wondering what you meant by that.
Okay, let me see if I'm getting this right. It's the open second, and then you do a plie, and then you do a forced arch to one side, and then folks will switch and do a forced arch to the other side.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Aaron is acting it out. What I seem to notice sometimes is that bands will put that into their show, but the show and the moves don't have the synergy like you were just talking about. Like, it seems like the move was just kind of thrown in, and it doesn't make sense. And that drives me bananas. So I'm wondering, do you see that move still quite a bit?
Yes.
Does it make sense?
Yes. And I think what you're talking about is movement that looks contrived.
Yes.
And doesn't look organic.
Yes.
And yes, we see that all the time. Even at the top level, we might even see that. Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Because at times, maybe designers might feel like they have to do certain things to kind of check a box.
Okay.
But in drum corps, at the highest level, it's really organic. Like, they really know how, like, they make it their own. The Blue Devils were, I think, the first ones to really make that happen.
Not the Blue Coats?
This was like 2014. The show that they did had, for that time period, had so much movement, and none of it looked contrived. It all seemed so real and artistic and true to what they were doing and what their identity was. And it changed the activity. And Blue Coats are stretching the activity, as we all know, in a lot of different ways. And they were the first to go with a costume like a WGI indoor type costume in 2016, and they ended up winning that year. And then, of course, that didn't just happen and follow through in drum corps after that.
Right.
But high school bands are seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
we sure have.
But the movement thing can at times be something that is contrived. And oftentimes it's visual techs on the field wanting to throw in more movement, and oftentimes the choreography might not be actually what the music requires at that time, but it's getting much better, especially in Texas and Indiana and places where the hotbeds for marching.
As a judge, do you feel like there are certain boxes that you feel like should be checked?
No.
Okay.
If I'm looking at a production like early season now, like I was in Pittsburgh the last 2 weeks, and early season, they have a lot of drill out there. They get more drill out there than Texas does early.
Really?
Yeah. Kiski had their whole show on the field last week, but it
Wow.
wasn't filled. So the production value wasn't complete. And so when you're watching something, it doesn't look full. So I want to see it workshopped, and I want to see body movement, like a fully realized production. Each event, each section in the show should look fully realized. And,
Okay.
And
Can I ask, is that meaning that like they have their basic movement down, but like special moves of like, oh, they're going to wave their arm here or they're going to take a step out here? Is that what you mean? It's not
just fully
filled out?
coordinated and fully realized movement. Sometimes it's just marching, and that's exactly what's needed at that moment to restage. But sometimes it needs choreography and layers. Maybe the music has all kinds of layers happening, and it's real. Well, we need to see that too. So we just want to make sure that what we're seeing on the field looks like what we're hearing. So if it's layered musically and it's busy musically, we need to see that be busy visually.
I love this. I could listen to you forever. This is so fascinating to me. So I don't know, Miss Erin, what question is next?
I don't know,
even?
but it just makes me think last year there was a band. I don't even know which band it was. They were at BOA and they were at UIL, and I loved it so much because they were playing and all of a sudden, you know, they hit that climax moment and the color guard just whipped out these flame flags and started spinning, and it looked like the whole field was on fire.
So you were seeing what you were hearing, and so that was a well-coordinated moment, right? The visual and the music designers
Fit
were
together.
rowing in the same direction, and the audience was receiving it by both. Like there was a synergy of both, and that's what you're after.
That was like one of my favorite moments last year. On the field, judging, how many judges are there on the field for each band?
It depends on the system. It depends on whether it's drum corps or DCI. In BOA, you'll see 2 judges on the field. There's a music judge and a visual judge. And they stay out of the way of the performers.
Usually.
Yeah, well,
I did comment last year, I watched a judge get plowed over by a brass player.
but they have to sample each section. So the visual person can pretty much go around the group and really check it out. The music person sometimes might have to really kind of go in to make sure they sample before the show's over. But in DCI, we have 3. We have brass, percussion, and visual. And we basically stay on the sidelines now. We can go 4 steps off of right behind. So we can get behind the pit, or you can get behind the judge blockers, the screens, you know. But we used to go out on the field. Yeah, this was a recent thing the last 7-8 years. We've taken the percussion judge, and just moved them off. We used to be out you would see the green shirts out and I did that all the time, and it was very, very fun for the
And
judge.
why did it change, do you think?
It was too dangerous now.
Okay.
There's too much
Just
movement.
too much movement.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So when you're out there and you're saying take a sample, are you listening to individual players as you walk by?
Yeah, for field music in BOA, individual music, I'm listening for sections. I'm even listening for individual players, and are they matching tone qualities, matching method of articulation? Are they matching the expression from player to player, or the snares perfectly together? But I'm also judging what they are doing. Every judge is judging the what they're being asked to do, and then how they're doing it. So the what being the writing, the musical writing, the physical challenges, then the environmental challenges. So for instance, say I'm listening to the pit, and I'm in front of the pit, and the bass drums come in and they're in the back corner. That's a huge environmental challenge because sound travels this way. And so not only are they way back there, but they're at an angle. So that's even more difficult. So in every single sample, you're looking at all 3. So sometimes they just have musical challenges. Sometimes they have musical and physical. Maybe they're marching at 180, going backwards at an angle. And sometimes they're doing all three challenges simultaneously. So musical challenges, physical challenges, they have movement or difficult marching, and then environmental listening challenges. So that's when the possibility for high achievement, like if you watch the top drum corps, typically all three are there all the time, especially musical and physical. And then you throw in electronics and what they're hearing coming back from the stands, and that adds a layer of environmental challenge as well. So that's what they're looking for, and they're sampling individual sections and individual. Then in ensemble, which is upstairs, in BOA, there's a ensemble music person that does everything, listening for electronics, woodwinds, brass, membrane, which is battery or timpani, drum set, whatever, like any musical sound they're evaluating. Soloists, the EQ of the soloists. So everything comes into play. And again, they're looking at what they're doing and how they're doing it. Not just how they're achieving it from a cleanliness standpoint or articulation or that, but also musicality, like how artistic is it. So that's kind of, now you're kind of like zooming outward. They also have a visual ensemble person that is looking at what they're doing and how all the pieces are fitting together, how well they move, how well the color guard bends and the writing of the color guard, how basically the nuts and bolts of visual. And then zooming out further are the two effect people, music effect and visual effect. So that's BOA in a nutshell.
So there are six judges per.
Yes.
And so do those judges do like a whole, I guess, all of 6A or all of like a certain designation?
Yes.
That's not BOA.
But they do all the classes.
Yeah.
And in BOA, when you go to a regional, you might see a 1A group, and then you might see a 4A group, which is their largest classification. Unlike in UIL, we put all the 1As in their own contest. All the 6A groups are... it's different in BOA. When we're watching and judging a contest in BOA, the judge doesn't care what class they're in.
So they don't care really the size
all
of the
one
group.
show. And we don't care what size school they are. We don't even know whether a group is a 1A, a 2A.
Oh, okay.
You know, there are certain groups, like everyone knows, say Westlake. Everybody knows Westlake as a 6A. But if you're judging a super regional and there may be a new school from DFW you've never even heard of, you have no idea whether that's a 2A or a 5A or whatever. So they put them all together in BOA and we judge it all on one standard.
How hard is that, especially as like the visual or the big aesthetic person, when you have a smaller group that just can't do the overwhelming visual?
Well, they typically will shrink the field. And there have been very small groups that have done very, very, very well in BOA in the past. Like Jackson Academy from Mississippi. A friend of mine, Tommy Keenum, was a young designer. He was probably 23 years old. And they had, I want to say, about 30 musicians.
Oh, that's all.
And then they had a real small color guard. And they put out a tarp, like a color guard tarp, and they did their whole show on that, put the pit behind the tarp. They were the first group to do that. And they had props, and it was like they did Pat Metheny music. I think they ended up fourth at BOA Grand Nationals.
With 30.
I mean, so
that's impressive.
Super small. Just around here, Rouse is a small group, but competes very, very well with, I mean, relatively in Texas.
Yeah. They had that amazing show. They're the ones, I think, that did the Requiem. And they had the little containers that moved with their soloists, and they had blocked the field.
Correct. Yeah. And so there are smaller groups around the country. Kiski did amazingly well for a long time. Like, I think they were second 3 times at BOA Grand Nationals, and they never had more than 100 wins. And so, but it was just designed so beautifully. So it's all about design and all about performance. Really good designers can make you just forget that a group is smaller. Like, you just don't notice it. And high achieving, another Texas group, Cedar Ridge, 2 years ago was really, really small. Or 3 years ago, they did a show that was just really, really intriguing and really effective. I think they only had 12 clarinets, but every person performed at a super, super high level. It was like a gargoyle show. So size doesn't matter that much.
Okay.
As long as when you need to get big scope and scale, when you need to match that size, that like if you're really loud, you need to see that. So you might have to shrink the stage with props in order to give the illusion that you're filling up just as much stage
as a larger group.
Yeah, as a band like Vandergrift, who has 350.
Right.
So you have to be really smart with your design choices. And you'd be surprised how good groups are at that.
Lake Travis a few years ago had everybody carried out their own little person and propped them up on the field.
They did.
I remember that show, yeah. That was a tool,
Right.
not just for their show in terms of the show concept, but it also made them look huge and big scope and scale. And that's a pretty big band anyway, a very, very good band.
I want to go back to earlier on, you were talking about how you had a position where you helped train judges, right? I want to know, I guess, a little bit about calibration. How often do judges calibrate with each other, or do they?
At the show, if it is a very big show, 30 bands, a big regional, and this is true in UIL or WGI, which I'm the chief wins judge for WGI. Anything like that, you want to make sure that, and calibrating is a really good way of putting that, to make sure that in the first 3 bands of a 30-band day, that everyone's on the same page.
Right.
But you can't tell each other
of course not.
who's judging what. Like, so usually the chief judge will text, these were the numbers, these were the ranges. You don't know if the person that gave a 14-1 was judging effect, or if the first 14-1 was on the field.
Or what they
it
were
just
doing.
gives a judge, like, that way, if everyone's like in the low 14s and another judge is at an 11, that judge will go, yeah, my standard is off here. And then it kind of recalibrates them. They'll usually do that on first or second band, or the first, second, and third. And then Gary Markham, who used to be the longtime chief judge for BOA, he used to go, okay, lock and load. That meant you better have your stuff together now. Then throughout the day, you take incredible notes. And there are certain boxes on the back of the sheet that give you a number range. The boxes represent like a description of, like, that's what that group looks like or sounds like, in 1A. In box 1. In this box, it sounds better, looks better, and all the way up to box 5, which is like superlative achievement. I will typically, if I give a 14, which is the beginning of box 4, I will write down everything I can about that band, their uniform, things that bothered me, things that I thought were amazing, like color of the drums, anything that might trigger a memory. And I'll circle that, put a star. That's my 14. And I'll do that for a 12. Somebody's at a 16, which is like mid box 4. I'll make that my anchor, so that as the day goes on, as 30 bands go on, you don't forget what a 14 looked like. Your calibration can easily change throughout the day. Even for a really experienced judge, the numbers are so difficult. But using anchors to keep yourself calibrated.
Do you think all the judges do that? Do you think they all have anchors like that?
Oh, yeah. Well, we don't confer and kind of calibrate together. we do in a big show like that at least know where kind of the number range where everybody is starting.
If something happens, does the chief judge kind of like send you a text and say, hey, you're out of range with everyone else?
Very, very, very rare cases in those first 3. Usually they figure it out, but you're being paid to judge.
Right.
And maybe
right.
your caption, maybe they are exactly where that judge puts them. So it's very, very rare. And it would only be at that beginning.
I feel like watching BOA, and maybe this was UIL, that the judges on the field changed. After several of the breaks, the judges would change, but you make it sound like if you're in for the day.
You're in for the day.
So they don't change.
They don't change until finals. So in between prelims and finals, you change. In BOA at the super regional, you may be seeing that. Like, so a judge might judge 2 blocks of bands, then another set of judges judges 2 blocks of bands. Like they alternate blocks. This is so the judges are fresh, because I've judged 58 bands and then 14 in finals at a super regional, and
Like all in one day?
over a day and a half.
Oh, goodness.
And
Quite a few.
that's how we used to do St. Louis. And by the time you got to finals, you could barely speak. Like, it was not good educationally, not good for the directors, not good for the students, not good for the judge. It's not setting them up for success, especially in Texas when there was like, I think the largest super regional before UIL started going state every year. I think there was 90 groups.
Oh, my.
Oh, yeah.
In San Antonio. I hope I'm not misspeaking there, but I know it was very similar to the size of Grand Nationals. And you just can't do that many bands with one panel.
I'm concerned that if I've noticed that they've swapped judges, I've stayed too long.
No.
No, you got to stay the whole day so you get a really good impression. You'd
feel
be
like
surprised how good you get at evaluating. You know, you may have your own terminology, or
I take pictures and notes and text them to Tanya.
Yes, we do talk about them.
that's cool.
We do it.
Yeah.
And I stay until my husband is done.
And don't forget that even though the judges, many of us are directors, former directors, designers, maybe we marched, maybe we taught drum corps, whatever, we're still fans of bands. And like, so we're just like, especially when we're judging effect, we are what you do watching all the groups and taking pictures and being moved by the flag, all the flags coming out at the big moment. That's the stuff that we're looking at too. So we're no different in that regard.
That makes me wonder, does cheering from the audience, does that affect the way you judge and the way you score? Like, if they're like, woo, all over the place,
question.
Or can you tell, oh, those are those parents?
Or does it even distract from what you're looking at and listening to?
No, it definitely doesn't detract, but you can tell when the whole audience is reacting. Okay. That happens in drum corps. It's wild how the crowd reaction is. I'll give you for instance, in band, I believe it was 94 Lassiter came out in their either 94 or 98, and their very first arrival moment, big moment, was a woodwind feature. And it got a standing ovation.
Nice.
Like, it was astounding. Everyone was reacting to it because that was before everybody did those really super impressive woodwind moments. That was kind of new, the way they were presenting that. Or in drum corps in 2008 in finals, when that regiment got to the end of their show, I could not hear myself talk.
Really?
No. The crowd was so loud, it was unbelievable. Now, do we get impacted by that? It would be difficult, especially in effect, it would be difficult not to kind of be caught up in that, because we are supposed to be reacting like an audience member. So there are times where there's no doubt in my mind I will get wrapped up in that. And the corps bank on it. They want that crowd reaction, and that's part of the activity, and engagement of the audience is certainly part of what bands try to do. Color guards, indoor winds, indoor drum lines, drum corps, whatever. We're trying to get a reaction from the audience.
Well, I just wondered, with it being high school marching band, where obviously it's a lot easier for Westlake parents to get there than DFW parents if you're going to San Antonio or El Paso or somebody. And I just wondered if you considered the cheering sections that obviously were parental cheering sections.
We notice it, but it doesn't factor into anything. We're used to that. You'll see pockets of parents, from one school cheering.
I remember the first time I saw, is it Hebron? I was just like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
It was overwhelming.
Yes. So, and they probably got the entire crowd to react.
Okay,
right?
I gave them a standing ovation. They're not my school.
Yeah. But you were reacting just like you would at a movie.
And I don't know if it was that or it's like, wow, those kids did that. And those are kids. They deserve a lot of cheering.
Yeah, high school kids. Yeah.
When the bands are so large and there's so much going on the field, like all over the place, how do you see everything? Like how is it that you just don't miss something?
Well, you do miss things.
Okay.
But you try to zoom out and check out everything. But if the designers are doing their job, you're supposed to be looking at one place or two places or three. But sometimes they want you to just take in the entire stage, the entire field. But if they do their job, like say there's a woodwind feature, your eye should go to that. They should draw you in, and you should be looking at something that looks like it sounds. And you should have no problem with your eyes flowing wherever they're supposed to go. So it's okay. But if at that moment they don't want you seeing the color guard going to get their new stuff, I
was just thinking about the last year. Were you there last year for the band that changed into the yellow and black polka dots?
I don't think so.
I felt so stupid. I mean, there were like 300 people on the field and they changed costumes and I didn't even notice.
Really? That's impressive then, right?
Whoa, what just happened? Because I was busy watching their little solo feature.
And that's exactly where they wanted your eye to be, and they wanted it to be a surprise. So that was well designed. So if I'm watching a show and I'm not engaged with anything, and it's unfocused, and I happen to just I'm starting to watch the color guard change equipment, and maybe somebody's changing a costume, and I shouldn't even be looking at all of that. So it's the designer's job and the performer's job to make you kind of focus.
Sometimes it feels like, oh, there's something interesting here, but there's also something interesting over here, and I think I've been watching you too long because I'm missing this over here. So
and that's okay too, because sometimes there's on purpose a split focus. Sometimes a split focus is not bad. They don't mean for it to be a split focus, but it is. But other times there should be. And other times there are multiple focuses, like Santa Clara's show this year. They had no props, but it was layered visually and musically beyond belief. And so there were times where I could pick and choose where I wanted to look. Their design team had just given you a smorgasbord to look and listen to. It was amazing. And so anywhere you looked, it was okay that you were looking there, and it was really killer. It's avant-garde, so that's the title of the show. So it's purposely contemporary sounding, and but it's really effective. It's really cool. So there's a change in the UIL judging. Did you know that?
No.
Okay, this summer I did a presentation at the Texas Bandmasters Association I did not design the new sheets, but they brought me in to talk about them. Okay. And they have 2 visual people, which is not different. They have 3 music people, and this is at area marching contest. So 5 judges. Everything is by ordinals. So each judge ranks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, gives a score, but they're ranking. But each of the 3 music judges will have an emphasis. Like I did percussion, so I did music with the percussion emphasis. There's a judge that does music ensemble kind of caption, but with an emphasis in brass. And finally, there's a music person that has the emphasis in music in woodwinds. So it's a way of having caption judging without actually having caption judging. So it's a big change for UIL, but only at the area level. At state, they have individual captions.
Okay,
so they have a percussion caption, a woodwind caption. So they have like 9 judges, I think. And I'm guessing what that number is, but it's many different judges. And the sheet and system that they've put together is really cool. UIL has come a very, very long way, and they're doing great things. So I think it'll be interesting at area. And so you'll naturally see more ordinal changes that will be, okay, maybe a group has a much better woodwind section than they do a brass, or maybe their percussion are like the finest in the state. So that number ordinal might be a little bit higher than brass and percussion. So that's brand new.
Do you think it's going to shake it up a little bit? It's not going to be, maybe some of the usual suspects might get booted by.
I think it will help educationally, because what if the majority of the bands don't make it to state? So they may never get a comment about their woodwinds if they don't go to one of those kinds of contests, a local contest that has a woodwind specialist or something. And for the people that do make it to state, in the past, they would make it to state and then get hammered and say their front ensemble is weak. And all of a sudden, their music ensemble score, their percussion score's low because their front ensemble is weak. And because at state, the judges, you may see a DCI percussion judge judging music ensemble, or, a DCI brass judge judging brass. They're getting that input first. Okay, we got a problem with our woodwinds. We better get that together before state. Oh, man, I didn't know we had this problem with our electronics. We better get that fixed before state. It's a way of getting better individual section commentary. Up until this year, it was just 3 people doing overall music with no emphasis. And maybe all 3 of those sometimes, and usually that was the case, especially in the past, were not percussion people. So they wouldn't make any comments about percussion, or very little, or in the minds of some, maybe not enough depth in terms of commentary regarding percussion.
I feel like I know more than your average parent, but yet there's so much I had no idea about.
You judge, lots of judging happening. What other consulting do you do, or do you consult?
I do. I consult with high school bands, Westlake, Cedar Ridge. There was a band in Alabama last year that I worked with the last 2 years. And so Orange Grove, just whoever asks me to come in, I'll come in and work with their group. South Lake Carroll last year, Trinity High School.
So where is home for you now?
Home is San Antonio.
Are you ever home? It sounds like you're very busy.
Certain times of the year, I'm traveling, especially the fall. In the winter, it's not as busy. I do, a lot of the indoor. I do judge indoor drumline, and of course, I'm the winds chief judge for WGI. But that is not as busy as the fall. I start judging the first weekend in September and go to late November.
Do you ever help anyone design their show? Like
Yes.
when they're thinking about ooh, maybe we should try this, or
of
even before kids start learning
Oh,
drill
absolutely.
and whatnot?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
I love doing that. That's
Do you think you would ever design a show that had a big cake and people came up from the middle of the cake out onto the field?
Like a single candle cake.
Yes.
But I call that a cake that a woman of ill repute
repute.
might come from.
We saw a cake. Did we not see a cake? It was
There was a
years
band
ago.
and it looked like a cake. I was sitting with Kevin.
Yes.
And I was like, do you think that's a stripper cake? And he goes, if it is, day's done. But
I guarantee
it was
if you can
not.
think of something like that, it's probably been done in one way or another in pageantry.
They just used that cake as a stage. They just rotated it
wasn't-
around and made different stages out of it. It was so disappointing.
We were disappointed, yes, but just curious. I do want to ask you about props very quickly. Has there been like a certain prop where you're just like, why do we have this on the field, or anything like that? Some prop that just really stands out to you?
Well, sure, that happens often, or you're not sure what the prop is, or how does that relate to the show, or how does that relate to the show title, or especially early season. Like there was a group this past weekend that had all of these flats set pieces, but they were all white and they hadn't painted them yet. So they had them out there so at that stage in the season, you're going, what is that? What's your movie? So when you go to the critique, you go, okay, so what's going to be on those flats? But in general, usually it's clear what the prop is supposed to be, but sometimes they're designed in a more sophisticated manner than others and used in a more sophisticated manner, because what really makes them come alive is the set, is when you utilize the set, and it's utilized in a purposeful way. If you see the opening of Hamilton, okay, and that opening number, right away, you see the spinning part in the stage, and you see using the steps. Automatically, the set pieces are they're almost a character in the show. So we will often look at the props and just go, why are they just sitting there? And why aren't they being engaged with? And it'll make it more interesting. Sometimes it's obvious that that's how they're designed, that is their purpose, just to be there. But other times it's obvious that they could be used in a more effective manner, and the performers can engage with them. And that's usually the best use of a set piece.
Now I want to ask you, thinking of just all of the different shows you've seen, do you have just an absolute favorite or a memory of one that was just amazing?
I have two.
Okay.
One is the Blue Devil show of 2014. Fellini-esque was the show. It was, for its time, very groundbreaking and very, 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 very effective. Even in mid-June in California, I saw them for the first time, their first show out of the gate, and it was breathtaking. And it was so new that it was incredible. The other was 2005 Cadets. They did a show that the group had two uniforms, a front and a back.
Oh, okay.
And it was just supposed to be out there like the Twilight Zone, supposed to be you're in a different dimension, and they referenced the Twilight Zone, and there was a door that people disappeared in and came out at different people, but the show was just incredibly effective. They hit on something that was just golden. It was magical, both of those shows. And at the same time that it was designed that beautifully, both corps hit it. The color guards were amazing. The brass were amazing. Percussion were everything was amazing. So you would see a recap, even the subcaptions, 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 all the way across. So those were my greatest.
Yeah.
Now, I wasn't judging in this year, so those were my two greatest that I've ever judged. Ones that I thought was most groundbreaking for drum corps, and that ends up filtering down to bands.
Of course.
Was 1983 Cadets. George Zingali was their drill writer. Cadets were just taking off, and Michael Cesario was helping design their shows, and the corps director was a young George Hopkins, and it was just a group of young geniuses like Tom Hannum in percussion, and Michael Klesch, I believe, was maybe even a drum major then or something, but it was just a mash of incredible talent, and all in their 20s. I mean, they were just young Turks. And that was the first time you saw a drill that was asymmetrical and curves, and the drum line moving. Back then, the drum lines were just kind of
back and forth or up and down.
Yeah. And so they set the world on fire, and that kind of changed the activity.
That's where it started.
That's pretty awesome. Yes.
We've been asking and we've been wondering when that big change started and how it happened, because we obviously did not march any of the fancy stuff they do now.
Right.
And it was George Zingali was a drill rider from the 27th Lancers, and in 1980 they came in second in DCI.
Okay.
In 82 he moved to the cadets. In 83 they won.
Should we ask the last questions?
We probably should.
Even though these barely apply to you, we still have to
Right,
ask.
we still have to
because
ask.
these are our ending questions. Well, what is your favorite band memory? Maybe those shows or something else?
Band memory. My favorite band memory was probably Westlake making their first BOA regional, or Westlake making state for the first time. One of those two things, because when we started at Westlake, it was very small. The band was small,
Really?
and the quality was at a very, very low point for many different reasons. And Carrie got here and just started building the program in slow growth. So we were riding this kind of wave that just kept going up. Considering where we started, that was amazing to us, I think. And the other might have been at Legacy High School. I started the school from scratch. We started with 9 and 10,
And that
brand
was
new
in-
school, Mansfield, Texas, after I left Westlake. And I started them in 2007. In 2009, we made state finals. That was a pretty cool moment, too.
All right, so this one also, you'll probably have to really stretch your mind for this, but we always ask, did you have a favorite band meal for trips when you were teaching? Or yeah.
At Westlake, we always did Jason's Deli for playoffs and pizza.
And pizza.
So-
do y'all ever do pizza still?
Very seldom.
I think
Very
my
seldom.
favorite was at Legacy. We had a barbecue crew committee.
Okay. Really?
And yes, whenever we would do shows, the band dads would serve incredible barbecue to the kids. And that was their thing. There was a committee for that.
Oh, wow.
So maybe that was it. Maybe Legacy band dads.
You still do quite a bit of traveling, it sounds like, with all of your responsibilities. What do you do on like long travel days? Like, how do you keep yourself entertained?
I try to do work, answer emails, but on planes, long plane rides, I watch movies like anybody else, try to pass the time. And it's usually on planes or in airports, and trying to keep myself either busy working or watching a movie.
So outside of band and music, do you have any hobbies?
And obviously it's running marathons and training for marathons. And that's integrated with all of this traveling that I do. Like, so for instance, last week I was in Pittsburgh, the last 2 weeks. So I would reach out to individuals, either a friend or Fleet Feet or a Facebook group. I do this every time I travel.
Nice.
Because every weekend when you're a marathon runner, you do your long run, either on Saturday or Sunday.
Right.
And so, and I find a trail or a group or a place that will fit what the needs of that particular run. This past weekend, I ran on the Montour Trail in Pittsburgh near the Pittsburgh Airport, which is an old railroad line. So, and it's finely crushed gravel like Town Lake or Lady Bird Lake. And it was awesome. And I ran 18 miles
Oh, wow.
and did my run early Saturday morning when the sun was coming up. And I do that every place I go. This way, I see parts of Indianapolis that I'd been there for 30 years and never saw all of that. And now I'm running every time I'm up there. Or California, getting up and start running before the sun comes up on Huntington Beach and watch the sun come up. Or in Daytona on that beach, do an 18-mile run. So it's become a really cool part of my travel life, too.
So when do you find out if you qualified for the Boston or if you got in?
Right.
Well, I qualified in May 4th at the Revel White Mountains Marathon in New Hampshire.
What did your time need to be in order to
Well,
qualify?
at my age, I'm in the 60 to 64. I'm
Okay.
62, and I had to qualify at 3 hours and 50 minutes. Now, that's the first qualifying level. That's if only 30,000 people qualify. But I qualified at 3:36.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I've got a buffer there. But they have 3,000 more people that qualified than 30. So
okay.
They have 33. So they have to buffer it. But 6,000 was the number last year. So I ran it in 2024. Did not make it this year, but I should know in 2 weeks. That's when they let us know, the end of September.
That's really impressive, though.
We did a 10K once.
We did. We did.
Now keep it up. I did not start running.
It's too late. I hate running.
No, I did too. I thought running was stupid. I didn't start running until I was 48. I started running and did, this was when I was at Legacy, and did my first half marathon that summer. Did several half marathons, but didn't really get serious about it until I was in Nashville, and I didn't have marching band on my plate. And that's when the interest became more than just an interest, became a major focus in my life. So, and being healthy and enjoying life more. So
That's good.
So if you're a band director working 80 hours a week, don't forget your health.
There you go. So I think that comes to the end of all our questions. Do you have anything else you'd like to add or share about anything?
That's one thing, is just my passion is physical fitness and what that does for your mental health too, and getting that vitamin D, and just how it can improve your overall life and your experience of life, and how your perspective in terms of how you're enjoying life. Highly recommend it to anyone listening.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us this afternoon. And I hope your run around Town Lake is very enjoyable, and hopefully it won't get dark too soon. And
I want it to be dark.
Oh, you do?
Because
Okay.
then the temperature goes down.
Well, true. But listeners, if there's anything that we didn't talk about, or maybe you had some questions about, or still wondering about BOA, please make sure that you send us an email. Remember, our email is fansoftheband.whs@yahoo.com. We look forward to hearing from you. And thanks again, Mr. Fugett.
Thank you for
really
having me.
amazing.